All right, greetings, gods and goddesses in training. Welcome back to the channel. It's Uncle Makara, all relations. Let's get started today. Today, we're talking all about the topic of how you can use your imagination and your intellect, as well as your intuition, in order for you to actualize and realize that you have different helpers in other realms wanting to support you. Now, in the modern age, this can be referred to as spirit guides, but are they really spirit guides? Or are they fragments of your mind palace? Are they areas of your energy centers being activated? This is what I discovered on this path, that I have seven different guides associated with these seven different realms, portals, worlds. If you think about it like this will change the game for you entirely. Okay? It starts becoming exciting. Like, when you were a kid and you started to watch like Pokemon or something like this, gotta catch them all, you know? That energy is so powerful and potent, right? Because you're going on these gym tournaments, you're fighting all of these other people with Pokedexes, and you're understanding your own path with these guides, right? These little pocket monsters in a sense. And you take any show like this, they all reflect the same thing. They all teach you something about spirit guides, right? So let's take it back to childhood for just a second. I used to be absolutely obsessed with tigers. Okay. Ever since I was a little boy, I would just look up everything about tigers. I would start to even draw tigers everywhere. And I started to notice this very primal energy connecting me to my roots, my physical roots, right? I'm in India right now, I'm in Kolkata, and I've started to understand that the tiger's energy, the national heritage animal, the national animal of India, the Royal Bengal tiger, right? I'm also Bengali, so I'm in Kolkata, right? First and foremost, I understood that I was drawn to all these tiger things, Calvin and Hobbes. I got a stuffed toy tiger. I called him Timbo. And little did I know that Timbo was actually one of my guides later on in life, whom I discovered, named Deno. And Deno, when I first came across this energy, I was still an entrepreneur, so I was kind of going through the phases of just kind of dabbling with spirituality, right? I didn't know much back then, but I was still dabbling. I was still kind of, invested in my own spiritual progress and so forth. And I'd spoken to a shaman, and they told me that one of these guides, a Native American Animorph spirit guide, was named Deno. And that name by itself, when I started to chant that name, I had weird mystical experiences, okay? I had very, very strange mystical experiences. I can't go into it in too much depth here on this YouTube channel, but if you are interested in finding out more, you can always become an adept, join the Primal Sutra Mystery School, because that's the best way for you to really activate this journey for yourself, okay? Where you get the rocket off the ground, right? Upward spiral. So, this was my first instance with my first root chakra guide. Okay. And I had understood, I didn't know anything about the Lakota tradition. I didn't know what he was talking about at first, right? And he would always tell me, like, stay away from Yohimbe, stay away from this supplement. This is not good for you. Your lineage requires you to, you know, take things that are more valuable to you. He even helped me when I was at a very, very low point in my life where I had like 200 testosterone level, right? Very, very low, not masculine at all, completely love and light enveloped. Okay. I was in that mode, and he helped me to regain my confidence and my testosterone again. So that's number one. And that was my root chakra guide. And the reason I knew he was my root chakra guide, because he helped me with my survival. Anytime that I had this fear coming up, or something of like a past trauma coming up, it always linked me back to my survival and my primal nature. So he kept reminding me of my own primal nature. Okay. Now, if you've been to any of our channelings and you've spoken to Dano, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? I remember we had a very old school session with one of our uh, old brothers at the time, Marcello, who'd done a session with Deno specifically, and he was connected to the Native American tradition as well. So it was very, very interesting to witness this energy in action. And that was my first rung of the ladder, in a sense. Later on, I was exploring a lot of adult content in my youth, let's just say, okay? I was very addicted to the time. And if you don't know, it opens portals, it opens gateways, okay, to other dimensions and worlds. So this was around the same time that I was kind of dabbling with the Goetia. I remember we had this program called Shadow Work Mastery, right? And so in Shadow Work Mastery, what the main key element of that was is to help people transmute their traumas, right? It was actual healing of the shadows, right? And I remember during that time, I'd come across Asmodeus, the demon of lust, okay? And he had somehow found me and wanted to work with me, okay? Um, and it was risky, it was very, very risky. I didn't know much about mysticism. I didn't know much about magic. But I was dabbling, I was learning, I was able to tap into his energy and understand it. As I started to work with his energy, I noticed my old different thoughts around sexuality, around shame, around communicating with the opposite gender, all of these different things started to bubble up and come up into the surface. So it's almost like he brought my shadows out of me so that I could kind of understand them. When this energy became too intense for me, I knew that I had to create a harmonizer, a balancing agent for this chaotic force. Okay. So what I did was, and this is how you guys can also really practice this if you're really struggling with like porn addiction or something like this, you can start to understand this. These were like deep lessons that I had learned, okay, during the time. I had used the energy of Padmasambhava, who's known to turn demons into guard dogs. So he had that quality of taking these beings and almost like taming them. Taming them is a different word. It's more like maneuvering them in such a way that they become a part of your spiritual path and dharma. And so this is where Padmasambhava really helped to cultivate this energy and this essence, right? And then from that point forward, what had happened is Shivaji or Kalabhairava's energy, as you guys know, Shiva is also very good at transmuting the energies of demons, similar to like Hanuman and so forth. So during that time, I'd understood that Shiva was the bridge between love and lust. So Kamadeva, the god, the Hindu god of love, the Hindu Cupid, and Asmadeva, right? Both Deva were merged by Shiva. So I'd called this energy initially my sacral chakra, which is my path, Shivkamasmadeva. Now, what I have understood from this energy is that I had eventually replaced, you could say, this guide of this kind of trinity. They were still at the brunt of my spiritual progress, but they weren't like the main frame, right? So I'd use the Makara. The Makara is, of course, the Hindu sea monster energy, but later discovered first having a very weird mystical experience in Bali when I was there, as well as a lot of synchronicities, you could say, just random ones that allowed me to understand like this is the guy for my sacral path, like really. And yeah, and now he became my sacral chakra guide. So it started off from almost a demonic attack, right? And it was transmuted through these other harmonizing energies. And then it became the Makara, right? So this is kind of the evolution process of that, okay? Then, of course, I had come across Janus. Now, I had originally worked with a sorcerer a long time ago by the name of Frank White, shout out Frank White, who pointed me out to working with specific flow state deities and flow state entities. And he said, Janus he was the god of doorways, right? He was the god of keys. And he was also the god of the liminal spaces. So flow states was very common. So I had first learned about this during that time working with Frank because he had pointed me to that area, so very specifically. And I remember working with this energy at first, and it's so like a dad energy, like very caring. A dad was just like there for you, but very kind of strict at the same time. So I got that tough love lesson from Janus, of course. And one of his heads is focused on the past, one of his heads is focused on the future. You might have seen maybe some coins with his face on it and so forth. But anyway, so that was associated with my solar plexus chakra, okay? Because it helped me get things done, right? His energy was more like, okay, there's a door there, there's an obstacle there, similar to the way Ganesha would be like the obstacle remover, right? There's also Duimukhi Ganesha, if you've ever seen that. So that's like the Indian equivalent of Janus would be like Dvimukhi Ganesha's energy because it is this doubling, effect of past and future, and this like creates this like trinity, right? It's like past, present, future in one, but he is pure presence itself. He is flow state itself, right? So that's what we got to understand. Then after I had done a lot of work with this solar plexus chakra, I had risen up into my heart and higher heart. Now, originally, my heart chakra was pretty blocked, okay? I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty blocked at first, and I really had to spend time doing a lot of service, giving back to the community, like um, humbling myself, through a lot of things to be able to actually activate this heart chakra energy. Okay. Now I had this. Actually, one of my coaches that I had worked with at the time, Rion, he had pointed out to me that I had a very unique sacred heart fire. Now, I didn't know what that meant at the time, right? However, I'd later on learned when I'd also been to Kashi and so forth and really explored this kind of Kalabhairava energy, this Bhairava energy, I started to notice my heart expanding with that energy every time that I would think of this deity or this being or Shiva in general, even Mahadev in general, right? I just felt these goosebumps, this whole like kind of full body um activation, you could say, right? Like I felt it through my bones, my capillaries, my dense network of cells, my auric field, everything, right? It was just like a full body kind of Kundalini effect that was taking place as I started to delve more into the heart space. And that was during that time, I was also doing a lot of metta meditation, metta, that's METTA, right? That's loving kindness meditation. So that's where you would like send the heart chakra energy out, out, out into the universe, right? So it was like almost an emanation point for me too. But I had noticed that if this was in my heart chakra, I also got to be very passionate to have a fierce version of Shiva who's associated with death in my heart space, right? On Tao, on God, on Buddha, on Allah. Once I started to understand that, oh my goodness, this is one of the most fierce forms of Shiva that has cut off one of the heads of Brahma, right? This was like a weird past life thing. I don't even know because he's my Kula Deva. Shiva is my Kula Deva. However, at the same time, that's my family deity, right? At the same time, I knew that there was something with this energy that I needed. Me as a nice guy, a people pleaser growing up, I needed this bad boy, fierce mofo, right? To put me in place and checkmate me over and over and over and over again until all that was left was graciousness, peace, flow state, grace. So my heart chakra nowadays is much more expansive, much more elegant in its nature, right? Then this is a very, deep story time from Uncle Makara, but here we go. And I had focused in on communicating, and I had been fascinated with the Kybalion and the Hermetic principles, and I wanted to find a way to crystallize and hone in on how I can bridge the physical world with the spiritual world. I didn't really have a clue then. Of course, I had, if you guys see my tattoo, hold on. consciously gotten. So this has actually two of my guides associated with it. Haru, of course. If you see this inside of this dopamine symbol is something called the seal of quintessence. Okay. Now the seal of quintessence helped me bring this Hermes energy, this kind of trickster poet, sage type of quality. And he was lightning fast. Like if I ever needed to communicate something very clearly, he would come through with his mercurial energy, just helping me to blast it out there, right? Even when my voice was shaking, even if my voice felt like trepidation in it, Hermes helped me to communicate. So the great thing about Hermes energy is that he can actually translate the other guides that I'm working with if I can't ever understand their energies. Let's say I come across some weird intergalactic energy and it's speaking some language that I have no idea about. Hermes can work as a translator for that energy. How powerful is that? Right? By the way, all of these guides that I started to work with were under the umbrella and the banner of flow state. All of them helped me to achieve and unlock different levels of my peak performance through different ways. So they helped me access those trance states, those channeling states much more swiftly. Okay? Because this is what I've been doing over years, guys, right? This wasn't just like a one-time quick fix move, like, oh, this guy told me this, so I'll move there and relocate there. No, it was years of just like, tinkering with this, like like a mystic mad scientist in a way, right? Then we had Hermes energy. Then from the throat chakra upwards, we're going up, right? Into the third eye. Now, if you guys know anything about my location or where I stay, okay, I'm in Newtown, Kolkata, but there's a lot of these black kites that came around. And I would notice over my journey that whenever there was like a big blockage or like a weird like moment of like something wasn't working the way that I wanted it to, or there's just things just felt like, like sludge, like there was no momentum, there was no energy. These black kites would come over to my balcony, lock eyes with me, and remind me, you know your purpose. You know your higher perspective. You know what you're here to do. That's always what it felt like. It was a visceral, like, yo, watch yourself. The spiritual world is watching you, right? And this was during the time where we're still kind of experimenting. I remember my friend Ivan, he was showing the Akadua during the time. So that's Montu's energy, his son, right? I tend to stay away from like the Crowley stuff. That the thelemic stuff is really dark, after a certain point. But that particular mantra, that chant, put me into another world of ancient Egypt. And I started to really understand Haru's energy was such a high vibrational energy, actually, right? And it can be very misconstrued by a lot of people because there's like a double Haru, right? There's like a fake agent Haru and a Horus, and then there's like the authentic one that really helps people guide people up. But the new age has kind of confused so many of these different things that we can't even tell, man. We have to learn through actually hitting these walls and like making all of these mistakes. You guys are getting this? So Haru's energy helped me with focus. Okay. I have a mild kind of ADHD type of energy to me, kind of my brain works very fast, very rapidly. But Haru's energy helped me to ground, helped me to calm down, helped me to connect with my inner senses, helped me to understand where my inner focus lies and where my mission actually is being directed, right? So he was like a director of like this movie in a way. Best director of all time. Okay, shout out to Haru, or as I like to call him, Brother Haru. So I gave them all nicknames. Okay, and you guys can start by also giving your guys nicknames because then you really personalize it. Call them your uncle, call them your brother, call them your friend. Okay, because only then will you start to notice that they are the family that you never knew that you had. These invisible realms. Imagine you had like protectors, guardians from the other side protecting you. We had one of these quotes back in the day. We never know who is backing us, but there are energies backing you. And you just have to go on this discovery mode, almost like a scavenger hunt, so that you can figure this out for yourself. Today I also did a Bodhisattva vow. I won't get too much into this because it's not relevant to the video, but I just want to say that I feel very enlivened. I feel powerful right now. This lapis lazuli jewel July energy right now. It's very potent. I can just feel it. And then, of course, this is where it gets weird, guys. And you can go back and revisit some of my old videos and look up some of these names. Maybe I'll make more individualized videos on each of these guides that I work with and make it a series or something like this. If you guys are open to that, I don't know, let me know in the comments if you guys like this kind of content, if you want to learn more about kind of the basics of how you guys can get started on this process. Osmosis came to me at a very interesting time where I was listening to a lot of Bashar, and his voice kind of sounded very similar to Bashar in that he was like a Poindexter kind of genius energy. Like, I don't even know how I was able to pronounce his name, so I just gave him a nickname Osmosis, to be honest, because the way that he was trying to portray his name, I was like, there's no way I'm gonna butcher that. And so I was like, is it okay if I call you something else? And I'd remembered one of these cartoons I used to watch called Osmosis Jones. I don't know if you guys remember, right? From back in the day. Oh man, Osmosis Jones was great, right? And he had this like friend who was like a pill or whatever. That movie, as cringe as it was actually a catalyst towards me understanding the water path and the flow state path because he was water. Bruce Lee, be like water, right? He was the embodiment of that. So when I had first connected with osmosis energy, it was like I was learning through osmosis, right? Osmosis is like a semi-permeable membrane, right? So it's always filtering things in. Like if something is around something else, you learn by osmosis, right? So if I go and stand next to someone giving a lecture in the public streets, I'm in osmosis to them. I'm in their proximity, right? So it's almost like it created this bond, this closeness to this Vega star seed energy. Okay, this is where it gets really woo-woo and kind of weird. So if you want to click off on the video right now, I know it's already been very strange and weird, this journey, and it's unbelievable. And maybe you want to challenge me and be like, that's all fake. You're doing this all for clout. I don't have any intentions of doing that, guys. Like, why would I do that? You know what I mean? Like, I could do so many other things with my life than, flaunt about this kind of stuff. This is my own personal experiences. Read the disclaimer, okay? So when I'd worked with this Vegas starseed energy, I had understood he was a prince. He was an actual prince of Vega. And I had always heard the word Vega associated with Vedas, right? The ancient Hindu texts. And during the time when I was working with this very high vibrational, fast intellectual energy, it went into so much alien tech, man, that I can't even cover all of it here in this video. But what I would tell you is that that energy felt very instructive towards my path because it made me understand flow state and how Vega sees flow state. And it's very different, let me tell you that. Our earthly understandings of the scientific method, kind of like, oh, these intrinsic motivations and, the challenge skills ratio. Oh, that's cute. To them, it's like, that's just you opening the door to it. Then there's this entire world, right? These entire portals to flow where you start to understand like they aren't even playing on the same playing field as us, guys. They're not. Okay, they're absolutely at a different level. And when I started to connect with these higher vibrations, I started to get these massive downloads, just like downloads that created such clarity for me that I could swiftly move and maneuver through this video game called life. Okay. So that's how I discovered my first seven chakra deities. Of course, there's seven chakras above and seven chakras below. We're not going to cover that here. This is just for the introduction, maybe to the series. But I would definitely say if you're practicing this or you have a locked-in protocol like this, just see if you can connect with a Telegram group, connect with us, and then you can slowly start to understand the secrets that are underneath each of these kind of fractals of God, as I like to call them, right? They're different fractals of the divine, each of your energy centers. Now imagine if all of them, kind of like, robots or whatever, Optimus Prime, like all of them started to connect, or all of them were like Power Rangers, right? And they could charge up. Now your chakras buzzing, right? Now you're a Kundalini king or queen. You're not playing this small game of like, maybe I'll meditate for 5 minutes. You're going, I'm going to go deeper. I'm going to blindfold myself and ecstatic dance for an hour. And you're going, why would you do that to yourself? Well, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you explore the limits of your human capacity? And if there's help already out there, why would I be so selfish in thinking I got all this on my own, guys? I can do everything myself. I cannot rely or depend on anyone else. Absolutely, I can, because I am interconnected and they are all me. And maybe, even maybe, they're future renditions or past renditions of me. Now, I am not claiming to be Shiva. I'm not saying I'm Hermes, right? I'm not saying, well, I am the Makara, right? However, what I am saying is that these guides are different puzzle pieces of my consciousness that help me to create a spiritual theme of wholeness that creates this fuel for me to create an amazing trajectory to my narrative, of my life narrative. Okay. And if you understood this a little bit more, and if you speak to any of our adepts, you would understand the depth into which this goes. Okay. But for now, you can just watch these videos, get yourself acquainted, and I'll be back in another video. Have an incredible day. May the flow be with you and stay legendary. You got this. We got this. Upward Spiral gang. Take care of yourselves. Upward Spiral.